Hello. You are listening to the Carroll Connection with your host, Jared Carroll.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Carroll Connection. I'm your host, Jared Carroll, here to bring you guys another great episode. I did want to take a chance to shout out my last episode 213 with Michael Rose, and he is a fine art, I don't want to say critic, but technically critic if you looked up his job description. And he goes around in the Providence area, the Boston area, and helping students in local art schools basically kind of get scholarships and putting the newsletters out there, and he does drinks with artists as well, and just does a lot of like connection and collaboration building in the local area. And if you want to check him out or figure out a way to connect with him, I tagged him in all my stuff, but you could check out the episode at thecarrollconnection.simplecast.com. Also available Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the major listening platforms. If you like to watch your podcast, go on YouTube, search the Carroll Connection or at Jared M. Carroll, and it should pop up. And if you want to be a guest or return as a guest, hit me up on Instagram at Jared M. Carroll or at the Carroll Connection, and we'll set that up. And also want to plug the 5 Pillars to Create a Meaningful Life. Only available on Amazon. If you buy it and you read it and you really like it, submit the review on Amazon. That really helps me in the algorithm. I know a lot of you guys that have bought the book still haven't reviewed it. I know we're almost getting to like close to over half a year since I've released this book and could use some of those reviews. So we'll try to revisit that, as well as also explaining kind of the lapse in episodes that I've kind of been missing. This episode is 214, and it's going to be the Azores trip recap. So obviously we'll talk about the Azores trip that we just went on, kind of talk about the meanings behind certain things. And I also obviously haven't been recording because I've been away internationally. And for some reason this year, I've had the most episodes scheduled when guests not responding. It's like I've had it like 3 times this year. So if people could be a little more courteous for that, because I'm also like doing the podcast for free. Like I don't make money off this. I'm pretty respectful of people's time. So just kind of putting that out there as kind of like a reminder that if you book an episode, if you don't want to come on after you book it, it's totally fine. But just let me know and have that heads up instead of ghosting. I think everyone can relate to ghosting, and it's not fun for anybody. It doesn't matter if it's a podcast, a doctor's appointment, or like a relationship type of thing. So just putting that out there, my 2 cents. But like I said, episode 214, the Azores recap trip, bringing back one of my personal favorites, Jake Wickham. And the last time that Jake was on the podcast, we did a Germany trip recap, and it was during the Oktoberfest of 2023. So this has been a while since you've been on the podcast, but welcome back to the show.
Been a bit, man. It's good to be back.
Yeah, excited and glad that we postponed last week's trip recap. You got sick, and just basically everyone else on the group got sick, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about that, maybe not throughout this episode. But how I like to start all the episodes is give my guest a chance to kind of recap their life and touch on anything that's kind of been important in the last several years, I guess, technically, since you've been on the podcast, since we're going October of 2023. So I'll let you kind of take the floor with that and kind of catch us up on what Jake's been up to.
Yeah. So people who have seen the podcast, they know that your cousin. People who haven't, or they just don't know us anyway. There's been a lot going on since then. I bought a house not too long ago. I say not too long ago, 3 years ago. Still almost done renovating it, but since then we've had a lot of progress. So been doing a lot of the interior work on it. Before it was kind of just like the exterior stuff. So the interior is almost done. We just got to do some finished plumbing. Gotta get furniture. Got to do some finish carpentry, some stuff on the inside. But yeah, just like that whole evolution's just been awesome to see. I think people joke about the process in general of like, oh, you're going to be done in like 2030. Just they don't understand fully how much money goes into it. At the same time, us going on trips and shit. So clearly I have my priorities and other things too. But, you only live once. So almost done with it. Pretty excited about it. Should be done hopefully by July or August. Hoping. So that's been going on in my life. I went to Greece also last year. Speaking of trips, that was a really good time. So my parents and I went. We have a family friend that actually was one of my customers for work, do building materials sales. So him and my dad were good buds working together in the past too. So we stayed at his place in Portarafti in Greece. Got to see like the Acropolis and everything like that. Got to go to some of the other islands and stuff. Greece is awesome, man. And kind of what we're gonna be talking into now is just different cultures. When you go to Europe, you get to learn different things. It's really cool to kind of ingrain yourself in that, because when you're in a country where everyone speaks a different language, like we were in Germany, Greece, and then Portugal. I mean, you just you're somewhere else, right? Like it's like there's some resemblance to our culture because it's first world nations, those countries. But still, it's just cool to experience it in their views. So yeah, I mean, this trip was a blast. That we went to the Azores for. So it was a family trip, right? We had 15 people total. We had some of my dad's family friends. So again, from the building materials industry that I knew, some friends that I knew since I was a kid as well. So for us to just kind of get all together and go over there and experience it was something special. And you can lead into that too, right? With the
Yeah,
fact that our
I was gonna
moms
say,
descend from there.
yeah, before we even dive into that, I wanted to ask you like kind of like a two-part question with the house and the Greece trip,
Yep.
because we're not gonna spend too much time on that stuff because obviously we're gonna talk about the Azores and kind of like our experience, and
Yeah.
like you just mentioned, our moms are from the island, so it was kind of like a coming home type trip
Sorry
for
to speed
them.
over
No, no, no.
that.
But the in terms, we'll start with the housing stuff. What do you think the biggest like learning lesson? I don't know how to phrase it, but what like the biggest lesson that you've learned, I guess, since doing the house over the last like 2-3 years?
So I guess what I definitely learned is like when you're budgeting for things, like it's always going to cost more than you think it does. Like that's definitely one of the first things that I learned. I thought it was super cool, like how many people liked engaging and like learning about the process. Because there's many people that have like joked, bust my balls about like how long it's taken. There's been a lot of people that have like asked me questions or like enjoyed watching the process. So it did feel good being able to share that with people on Instagram, social media. But for me, I think I learned that you have to be on top of the people that are doing the work because when you're hiring different guys, they have their subs and their crews doing things. My father was a good help for that to make sure you find the work, make sure you get a good price on it, shopping it, and then making sure that they're doing things correctly, making sure that they're some guys stealing stuff. Like we've had some tools get taken, so like all that stuff is like just what factors into the cost truly. It sucks, but you can't really monitor it when you have like plumber in there, electrician in there, siding guys, interior guys. There's people in there that might not even fully speak English, so you don't really know who's doing what or who's taking what. So you take it with a grain of salt. But no, I mean, I think that you learn like the chronology of events too on what to do first and when. Like, I mean, I could bore you because I'm into house stuff because of my industry that I work in, but like, there's certain things like exterior blocks, like putting your electrical blocks and everything, your dryer vent blocks and stuff. You should do that before you do your siding because then when you try to do it after the fact, you could flash it in wrong and water can get in your house. So like, I mean, they did it and they helped me out, but like it's still like little things like that that I'm like, shit, I wish I knew that going into it. Um, but yeah, it's always gonna take more time than you think it does. Things seem harder than they really are until you start trying to do it. Um, and then just having connections and reliable help is important.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really great piece of advice, and I'm glad that we had the chance to like discuss that. Even just like it always comes back to connections. Like the people that you know, the people that your family knows, like relationships matter, and it doesn't matter whether you're building a house, doing a podcast, starting your own business. Having relationships are gonna be it's gonna be the thing that kind of like carries you in life, and I think a lot of people will, especially nowadays, gloss over that for their own ego or their own self-interest, and will be quick to burn other people or slight them to try to get the advantage out of the relationship, and that's
Yeah.
not always the healthiest thing to do because a lot of people, if you just treat it as like a positive interaction with people and you're both trying to mutually get something out of it because that's what a good connection is, then that's going to benefit not only you but them, and hopefully add more business or more endeavors to whatever you're trying to do out of that relationship. And you might need them in 4, 5, 6 years. You never really know. And I like to reference my guest last week. He brought up that point too, is like the world is very small and you never know who you're going to run into again.
Right.
So like you're better to not burn the bridges and try to like maintain healthy relationships with people, especially within your industry specifically. He was kind of referencing, and I
Yeah,
think that was a
yeah.
great point. And just on top of that is before I transition to like the next question that I had before we get into the Azores stuff, was that it's going to take more time and it's going to take more money than you think it does. I think that's a great point for a lot of people, especially when they're budgeting and working on stuff. Like it doesn't even matter if it's like a house or anything specific. If you're working on a budget for a car or whatever, like it usually there's more money involved. Like there's costs that you don't see on that sticker that's going to be behind that. Whether it could be like just taxes, like installation fees, like I don't know, random fees that they slap onto it just because they
Right.
can. Like you don't know.
Delivery fees from
Yeah,
National Grid. Thank you.
yeah, you don't even know what's coming behind all that stuff. You see the sticker and it's usually more on top of that. So like I think that's a great piece of advice for anyone is like to budget for a little bit more. Like
Yeah.
always be prepared. It could take a little bit more time than you think it does. And that applies even when you're doing something creatively. Like
Hmm.
I have always referenced in the part of this podcast that when I first launched Instagram, within 1 year, I was like, I'm gonna get 1,000 followers. I'm still not at 1,000 followers for the Instagram page. And like that even goes to show like it takes time to really like do this because like not everyone goes viral. Not everyone's gonna have like a really successful like viewership podcast or monetary podcast. Like if you really care about something, you have to consistently work at it and put the time and effort into it. And that even
Right.
goes into kind of the point that you're hitting right there.
Yeah.
To transition off that point, I wanted to dive into the Greece thing and then we'll get into the Azor
All
stuff.
right.
Because I don't want to spend too much time, but this is relevant towards the topic of just going on trips and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was different between like the Ireland trip, the Germany trip, and obviously now we have the Portugal trip that you can add into this uh, with Greece compared to those other countries that you noticed specifically? Like, I guess it's kind of like off the top of your head that kind of sticks out to you.
Um. Yeah. I think that the age shows. Like you go there and it sinks in that like this is ancient Greece. You know what I mean? Like you read about this in school. Like literally like the Greeks, like Athens. You think of like all the Athenian like stories you might have read in school. It's just like blows your mind, right? Because you're just sitting there and you're looking at the water and it's just so crystal blue, the Mediterranean, and you're just like, wow, like thousands of years ago, the Greek, you know, ancient people lived here and they just looked at the water the same way that I'm looking at it and just like really lived their life and took it in and just I don't know, they appreciate the same things that we appreciate. Like it's just old. You know what I mean? Like I went to the Acropolis, what's it called? The Pantheon. It's easy to get those two confused because it's the Parthenon and Pantheon. Embarrassed that I don't know it, but Acropolis is the actual structure. Or the mountain. So when you go there, it's just huge. Like people did this. They moved these giant stones and built this ancient building and they could see like the marble like sculptures and everything that's still there from thousands of years ago and you just think like it's insane that it's existed for this long. um the cities too, I mean it's new as in it's first world but it still feels old. We went to these ancient ruins at one point too, and the thing that like I really remember and stuck out to me because like you go and you see all these different like sculptures. You see all these different clay pots that are beautifully drawn and painted. But one of the things that blew my mind was I was looking in this glass container or this glass vanity, whatever you want to call it, the display, and there was this jewelry in there, and it was from 700 BC, and I'm just like, wow, there was a woman 2,700 years ago that wore that and she did not know that one day there was going to be people from across the world coming to that spot to look in that box and see her jewelry. You know what I mean? It's just like insane. So like Greece, definitely it's the history part that I really enjoyed and liked about it. Um Obviously the islands are beautiful. I didn't go to Santorini or Mykonos, which gives me reason to go back, but that's more of like the party islands or the aesthetic. Like that's the islands that a lot of people go to take pictures and stuff and it's touristy. This was more relaxed, you know what I mean? Like we had great food. Which you can have in other places in Europe. Obviously, Portugal is phenomenal food, but yeah, it was just like it was great to take it in, enjoy like the architecture, enjoy the history of it. Yeah, man, I recommend it to anybody to try to go there at some point.
Yeah, I think that was a good piece to add to the conversation as we segue into the Azores conversation, because that history piece is, we're not going to be talking so much about the history of the Azores as much as the history of Greece is so like pronounced and like known. We learn about this in school. Like I don't recall ever really learning about Azorean history and stuff like that. So it's
Yeah,
not on that same level in
right.
terms of it. So like that is like a really distinguished difference in the trips that we've taken.
Yeah, the Azores has a huge part of our life, and we appreciate it and enjoy it. And obviously, there's history there. There's geological history because it's volcanic islands. Um, but it didn't have like as big of a mark on like human history.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like Greece did. Like there was empires that sailed ships out of those ports that I literally walked on. You know what I mean? So it was just insane.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
to
I think
see.
that's a good point, and like to that helps us talk about stuff. And we've done um I don't think you did the Ireland recap. I think I did that myself.
Yeah, you did.
I did that with myself 'cause I think it was like around like my birthday. So I think
It was
that's what
fun.
that was a great trip. Like even though I got COVID for sure on that trip.
Yeah, I
Um
did too.
but the difference with this trip, now we'll start diving into this. I think the fact that we also did it like beginning of the summer,
Hmm.
that was a huge difference. It felt kind of like a tropical vacation too, where like it's an island, so it had that feel. The weather was really great.
Yep.
Um, it was it was funny because it was hotter than I thought when I was looking at the weather. I'm like, damn, it's only 70 degrees, and of course, obviously, right now we're going through a heat wave, and even before we left, it was like 80 degrees and stuff. I'm like, damn, where we're going, it's gonna be fucking
Colder.
colder.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is terrible. Like, I was literally getting pissed off. I'm like, why, why didn't we just go a little bit later? And then let me tell you, when we were there, like we had 2 beach days, I was boiling on that beach. As someone with tattoos, like I feel the heat a lot more on my arms and my leg, but it was notice. And obviously, you could maybe it's the sand too, because the sand's black.
Yeah, yeah.
But like
Mixing the heat.
you really felt it in the weather too. The humidity, like it didn't feel like it was like 70 degrees. It felt like it was damn near 80 degrees. So
Right.
I thought it was like the weather wise, just starting there was like phenomenal.
Yeah, it was the second time that I went. I actually went in 2018. It was in November for a school trip for startup weekend. Had a blast. Great people that I met on that trip. Was gonna try to connect with them, but if they see this, I'm sorry. We had a family trip. We had a big group of people, and I just didn't want to detract from that. It might not have if I hooked up, hang out with them at one point in the city, but I don't know. I knew that they had their lives and they got work and stuff to do. So selfishly, I chose not to. Anyway, when I went, it was in November, so it was a little bit colder, but not quite too cold. Like it's like 60s in the wintertime. It was like kind of breezy. It felt like Ireland a little bit. But in the summer when we went, it was early June, and the weather there is like 75, like you said, but the UV's high. So when you're in the sun, it was hot, but the breeze cooled you right down. So it's like that scary temperature where, like, if you're pasty like us, I mean, we're not that white, but yeah, if you don't put sunscreen on, you're gonna burn
Yeah.
because that UV is high.
Yeah.
So
And
it
like
was nice.
and that was
Nice.
something that was interesting too, is the waves too, like along like the
Mm,
beaches. Like I was not expecting like them to be like as big as they were. Like
hmm.
not saying they were super massive. Obviously, we went to a specific area where they were, but like I definitely got crushed by a wave on
Yeah.
one of them. Like I just like didn't realize it, and it fucking almost took my shorts off like
Yeah.
immediately. And I was like,
Blew
I
his
should have
back
tied.
out.
Yeah, pause. I was like, I should have tied my bathing suit. And I was like, luckily, I wear underwear under my swimsuits, which I saw
Oh
that was a
man.
weird like controversy on TikTok of like do like guys wear like underwear under their bathing suits, and it was like there's like argument of like Europeans and like Americans and
Yeah.
like how do you tell?
Can't wear underwear under a speedo.
Yeah, well, that was some people were making that joke actually. That was like that's funny enough that you
It's the
say that.
easiest one to say.
Yeah, it's just like it wasn't even as bad. Like there's
Yeah,
definitely
no, there's not.
speedos, but like maybe just not in the area that we were in.
Yeah,
Just didn't see as many.
I wasn't looking for him.
Yeah, that's true. But like you didn't. Usually, you don't have to go looking for them. That's the thing.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
usually they're
yeah.
just there.
See them
Like
cheeks from a mile away.
yeah, they come a mile away. It's everything. But another part that of the trip that was really cool that you mentioned was too like the family ties to it.
Yeah.
And how our moms are sisters. That's where the cousin aspect comes in. And this is realistically their homeland. And
Mhm.
and I was really happy for our moms to do this trip, to do this together. This is something they've always wanted to
Yeah.
do. And sucks that my mom was sick for like
The entire trip.
pretty much the entire trip. Like
She was sick in the airport
got
when we
sick,
first got there.
then got re-sick basically because she
Yeah.
tried to go hard and drink wine and do all the stuff and just got sick again and almost got sick to the point where it's pneumonia. Luckily she got steroids and stuff and now that's still got the cough, but
Yeah,
nonetheless, to see them enjoy the trip too and like they're very like couch driven people. They don't like to go out a
That's a way to
lot.
explain it.
They're
Hermits.
hermits,
Homebodies.
introverted, but to see them out and together drinking and enjoying the land and feeling that connection towards their mom and
Yeah.
their grandparents and like this is where they come from. And
Mhm.
giving in some way maybe it's giving them a little bit of closure too of like obviously they have their own family history that's kind of been up in the air. But like to see the island of where their family originates from.
Mhm.
And we learned a little bit about the history and kind of why people immigrated over from the Azores to the United States. So that was an interesting little tidbit that our tour guide Tiago gave us like
Yeah.
during the trip that I
boy.
actually didn't know that. Like I didn't know that there was like a huge issue with was it the volcano, correct? That he was explaining and like how it erupted and like destroyed a lot of stuff. And it was it Kennedy that had the I forget what I don't know if it's called like the Azorian Act. I don't remember off the top of my head. I forget what
It might
president.
have been Roosevelt that he said. I can't
I
quite
can't remember off the top of my head.
But it was, I mean, if it was Roosevelt and it was Teddy Roosevelt, that might make sense because our family came over during like the 1918 range, I believe.
Yeah,
So we're a little removed. There's a lot of people who live in our area. We live in Seekonk, but like East Providence, Fall River, New Bedford, that have family ties over there. And we actually met people over there that were like, "Yeah, I'm from Fall River." He's like, "Yeah, I went to Diamond." I'm like, "Oh, all right, I know
yeah,
this guy." But like, yeah, like there's a lot of people that have family over there, and it's because they had their family come over here at some point. So there's a lot of people in our area that have like dual citizenships and they fly and live over there with their family, come back. But for us, it was like kind of like a step removed because we knew we were from the Azorian descent, but we didn't know anybody over there. So it was, yeah, like you said, it was good to like kind of tie that back and go there with them so that they can kind of really let it sink in. But yeah, I mean, it's not that wealthy of an island chain at all, right? So a lot of people would come to America to make the money and give back to their family. Um, that said, it was interesting to learn too that like they're very strict on the land, where they're not allowing people who don't have a Portuguese or Azorean, you know, um, citizenship to buy land because they don't want to gentrify the island. They don't want people to buy up all the houses, the prime real estate, which they could easily sell for probably double, triple the cost of whatever they are right now, because they don't want the cost of living to go up for the people that live there because they know that they're not making that much, right? I mean, a lot of people are living kind of like a subsistence lifestyle. There's a lot of farming, there's cows everywhere. Like Tiago said, there's more cows than people, right?
yeah, there was.
So
That's what he said.
yeah, like you got cows there for your milk, for your steak, um, which they eat every part of the cow basically. Blood sausage and beef tongue and everything. Like that was pretty good.
Liver,
Yeah,
all
the
that.
liver and stuff we had. Yeah, it was like they use what they can. Like we went to that little market and all the vegetables in this like fresh market that we went to, all from the Azores, and it tastes so much better than anything we got here.
It was amazing. Like the freshness, like
No preservatives,
the juiciness of like the fruit. Like you
no
could taste.
GMOs.
Yeah, you could taste the freshness of them, and like there's not a lot of like insects to begin with on the island. To be honest,
Mhm.
like that they don't.
Some cockroaches.
There might not. Yeah, well that, but they might not have the same issues that like we have here in America. So like to maybe not use pesticides is maybe they just have that luxury too, and obviously they don't want to contaminate the food that we do, just like a lot of Europeans countries don't want to do what we do.
Yeah, it's a volume
Um,
thing too.
so like that's like an interesting piece, and like and to like add on to that, I remember Tiago was talking about the universities and like how like the majors like marine biology and like tourism and like they teach stuff that's relevant to like making money on the island and like
Right.
furthering the advancement of the Azorian culture. And I thought that was such an interesting piece because, like, obviously, looking at it from like an American point of view, we're capitalists here in America. Unfortunately, right now it's up and down depending on which way you fall on the political spectrum. But like, we have the luxury to also go into studies that are more passion or artistic sometimes rather than
Ethical.
ethical or money driven. Like, we have options here versus there. A lot of their stuff is you kind of have to do it to live on a day to day basis to survive and like push your country forward. Because
Hmm.
like he like made the joke like about the cows and like human population. Like, there's not a lot of people on the islands, and there's obviously a bunch of different islands, but like everything that the people do on the island matters. Like, all that stuff adds up. They all help each other. There is a sense of community there. Obviously, no matter where you go, there's always going to be some issues. Like, we like joked around like the jail and stuff. Like the jail there, it's like I wonder who's there, but it's like
Right.
the the pride that they feel within their country and the way that people are relaxed, and you see people at the cafes or shopping. You even see like school children like out during the day getting. I'm seeing at the cafe when I was getting lunch with my girlfriend. We saw people just like getting ice cream middle of the day, just like on like a probably like a lunch break or something for the kids, and
Yeah,
they're just
yeah, exactly.
all sitting at tables eating ice cream, and it's just like the pace of life and the way that they do things is so different, in the way that they look at day to day life is so different than how we do in America. And I think
Yeah.
that was like like something that always stands out to me when we travel, but specifically here, it
Yeah,
was a
New
little
England
bit
might be different.
different for
Yeah.
me. And kind of how you mentioned too, like we had like that family tie. Like, I felt the same way towards Ireland. Like, it felt like home in some sense.
Yeah.
This really did feel like home too. Like,
Hmm.
it had that feeling of just and I don't even speak the language. And like, I'm not even I was seeing TikToks of people saying you order in English and then say obrigado. And it's like people like joking about that. You say everything in English and say thank you in Portuguese or Spanish. People say gracias, and like people were joking about that online. And I was like, halfway through the trip, I was like, I'm just gonna say thank you in English because like I just don't even want to, like, I feel stupid even saying that.
I did it because I am stupid.
This is just
I'm just kidding.
my own personal thing. I just felt like I feel kind of stupid saying this. Like, I just they know that I'm American. Like it doesn't, like, I feel like I'm trying too hard if I just say thank you
No.
in Portuguese, and
The,
that's how I felt. I was like, I just don't even want to.
the funniest thing was when we went to the hot springs furnish. You weren't next to us at the time, but we small group of us. We were like drinking a bottle of wine at the hot springs, and it's not allowed to drink there, but we didn't know. And then like we had our bags and stuff on the grass, and there was like a sign that was like 5 feet away that we didn't see that says "Don't step on the grass." And the guy just comes up to us. He goes, "English or Portuguese?" We're like, "English," and he just shakes his head. He's like, "Yeah, can't do that." Like, oh, all right. He was cool about it. Like, he was actually really chill. But it was just funny. Like, I mean, like you said, they know we're tourists. You and I specifically, we look more Irish than Portuguese. So like, we know that people can see that in us, and maybe it's the way we dress too.
Oh,
But
definitely, 100%. You can't hide that you're American. You dress different. It's very obvious.
yeah, but I think to me, like, as as long as you're being respectful and trying in some way to learn their culture, like usually they won't give you a hard time, and that's for all the countries that I've been to. It's only if you just like aggressively be stubborn or be rude or ask too many questions, that they might give you a hard time or feel slighted by you. Um, not outing anybody, but like when you're out at dinner and like people are like complaining about stuff and asking too many questions, like you could just tell the staff there is like, come on, man, I gotta kiss your ass right now while you're just chilling. Like everything's just a slower pace, and we learned that the first night,
Yeah,
right? Like when you go out to eat, you're there for 3 hours. And is their service slow? Maybe, but that's what people expect. Um,
it's a social thing. It's an event for people
you're
when they're
waiting
going out to
20
dinner.
minutes for them to take your money. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? Like you're
you
just
have to
waiting.
beg for them to give you the check to take the money. Like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's a different, like you said, pace. Like,
yeah.
the way that they approach
The
things
till,
is
as they
not.
say in Ireland.
Yeah, it's not it's different, and in some ways though, traveling always creates an appreciation for for me where I'm from. Like, living in the United States, like, I do appreciate the luxuries that we do have here, and like the ability and the quickness to get certain things, or like in the closeness in which everything is too. Like, you can get anything pretty quickly, and like obviously in a lot of European countries, they're more heavy on walking or biking, and
Yeah.
like less about like traveling by car and stuff. And obviously that has its advantages and disadvantages. But I do appreciate like the way that America does structure their businesses, like the ability to get certain things. Obviously, like our food, you can compare that to Portugal. It's not as good in terms of like using pesticides and GMO and like all these other crap that we put in our food. But it makes me appreciate where I'm from at the same time. Like to have the luxuries that we do have here, like even AC, for example. Like luckily, like our Airbnb hotel had that, and our tour guide was talking about like most people don't have that,
Yeah,
and
right.
like that's some
Mhm.
as someone who I get very hot very easily, I would struggle for sure. But like,
Yeah, it's like you know what you know. If you grew up with it and you're completely comfortable or fine with it,
yeah,
then yeah, you're fine, you know?
yeah, and it's just it shows like even just the way our tour guide like explaining the way of life, and he was a younger guy, so like hearing him explain like the way that he lives and like how people live on the island, it creates that like, oh, I guess this comparison that you can have in your mind of like the way that people grow up in the Azores versus the way people grow up in America and how different life is, even though we're not realistically, especially in like Boston, that far away from the islands. So it's
Hmm.
just like traveling internationally always opens up my eyes. And like this is our third international trip together as like doing it as like a family and adding some more people this trip. It's cool to start being able to like compare the different countries and like see how each country has something that's a little bit different than the one that
Yeah.
we just visited.
Hmm.
And it's just cool to be able to do that with our parents and like obviously with each other, to have that experience because it's something that a lot of people don't get to do because obviously you talk about cost of living, cost of
Yeah.
flights, all that stuff.
Hmm.
So it's definitely something that I won't take for granted looking back on this.
Yeah, and yeah, privileged in a way, priorities, whatever it might be. We put an emphasis in our family on trying to do these big trips because, you know, there's health reasons too, right? Like our parents are getting older; they don't know how much time that they have left of flying good, let alone being healthy and living life. We want to just enjoy and get all these cherished moments in now. You know what I mean? So for us, like going back to where we descend from is huge, and it is funny that we did feel like comfortable and click when we were back in those environments. It's like we were like, you know, we were evolved from that area, so we were comfortable in that area. You know what I mean? I mean, it helps too when you're in Portugal or Azores and everybody looks like they're from Fall River, like we were saying. We're like, yeah, this is just like being, sea conkies, Providence, whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like this guy could be, a kid that I played football with. You know what I mean? So, yeah, we just put emphasis on family and getting those experiences. So, I mean, even if we don't do something overseas next year as a family, we want to do something. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah,
so
I
that we
think
have
it
that.
it builds on what you said too. Like they're getting older, but also we're getting to the age too where life is going to start entering a different phase for us too. Like
Yeah, yeah,
whether some of us are in relationships, maybe some of us want children, like
right.
housing is going to be a priority, like just bills are going to be tighter in certain aspects, like your focuses are going to change. It's just life.
Hmm.
So we're in a very unique point in our life where our parents are still young enough to experience the stuff with us and we're old enough to afford it.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's like it's learning to be appreciative of that because we didn't have that 4 or 5 years ago when we're kind of getting fresh out of college, entering the workforce, and our parents are still kind of helping us like figure out like adulting as we're leaving college, entering work. And for me, I traveled to Texas and Georgia and stuff like that. So like we're all in different places, and now we're kind of still coming back together as we're getting older and entering this like final phase almost of just like being able to do stuff as a family. Because like I just said, as we get older, we're gonna form different families, and the ability to get together will become harder,
Yeah.
whether it's age, illness, new priorities, new like family obligations within our own family units that we hopefully can get to create. Like that does change, and I hope people, if they can listen to this episode, get something from that. Is like if you're able to travel and you have the resources to do it with your family, and you have that relationship with
Yeah,
them,
just
it's
do it.
worth it. It's worth it to go experience that. And this is, like I said, our third time doing it together. and you had like a fourth one with your family and stuff like that, and you've obviously done other international trips as
Mhm.
well. But having those experiences is stuff that when hopefully that we get to have families that we get to show them like we did all this stuff. Because when I look at like our parents, they didn't have that as much. Like they didn't have those
Yeah.
international trips when they were younger, and like that priorities weren't on traveling. It was obviously raising us, and it was a different lifestyle too. Like they didn't always have the luxury of money and stuff like that. And obviously, as they get further in their careers, they've had more money to do certain things and travel internationally. So I think that's like a good piece of advice for people to kind of take from an episode like this.
Yeah, just like your loved ones, family, whoever that you have in your life, to just try to work a way to get with them. I mean, if you can't afford to go overseas, go on a small trip anywhere if you can afford the time. Just because those are when you can build these moments and memories that you just never forget and you just cherish forever. And it can get mundane if you're in the same place. You might lose perspective on what else is out there going on. There's a lot of people that like kind of get in that work mentality where they don't take too much vacation. Um, Especially in my industry, there's just people that like years and years just keep working because they feel like they're a slave to it. And it's just you got to take the time away for you. Like one of my favorite memories that I'll have forever was in Ireland, being drunk at a pub. Fun, obviously, but it was me and my dad, and we're drinking together, we're having a good time, singing and dancing. And I just looked at him and said, "I'm just so grateful and proud to be your son." And he said, "I'm so proud to be your dad." And that moment was just like, fuck, like nothing kind of, beat that for me. So yeah, man, it's just like all of us together just going on these trips is just huge. And, down the road to be able to tell like our kids about it is going to be sick.
Yeah,
That's going
and
to be really
hopefully
cool.
to be able to do it with them too.
Yeah.
Hopefully they get into positions where we get the opportunity to still be able to travel as freely as we have the last several years, and um, being able to travel internationally was like always like a dream. And since graduating college, I've gone to like Spain. I went Cancun. I don't really count that one, but like Spain, Ireland, Portugal, and Germany, and like hopefully to add one more in the upcoming year to continue that trend and keep experiencing countries outside of the United States, and also maybe one day to start traveling out west in the United States because we have such a great country and things to see
Yeah.
on that side of the country that we don't always think about. We always like East. At least me. I'm like East Coast ride or die, but like the
Right.
West Coast does have a lot of cool stuff that I would love to see. But
Yeah.
I think it's easier to do that in the future versus internationally. It just costs a little bit more with flights and stuff like that. But nonetheless, I think that's a good place to start bringing home this podcast. But there's a book that I'm reading right now. I forget the name of it off the top of my head. It's gonna bug me. It's literally sitting right over there. But it was like it was a birthday gift that my girlfriend got me, and the book basically was talking, and it relates to this conversation and just traveling. But it was talking about experiences and how like the internet, AI, automation is removing the actual experience of things. And one of the points it was explaining was how with GPS, like we're not even navigating anymore. We're letting
Yeah.
something else
Right.
tell us where to go. We're removing the
Always.
like the risk of failure from us, and like that is the experience. Whether it's good or bad, it's an experience and we're removing that. And I'm like almost 2 chapters into it, but it's going along that narrative of like how do we, because like obviously all this technology has benefits.
Yeah.
Like look at us using Google Maps and stuff to navigate on where to go in the Azores. Like it's huge to get us around, like walking and stuff. But we would also get to where we'd still want to get to if we didn't have it either. So like it's an interesting thing, like because there's a benefit to it. It saves us time, but we could have seen something or done something different if we just went ourselves without that.
Right.
And that is like the thing, we're losing the experience of things.
Yeah.
And it was an interesting concept that I was reading on the beach and stuff. I was like, wow, it's just like kind of really hit me. And I posted on my Instagram story the quote on the beginning of the book was like, "We had the experience but missed the meaning."
Mm.
And I was like, "Damn!" Like I'm reading that on the beach, and like, "Holy shit!" Like that just like it hit me in the face. Is like sometimes we overlook the actual experience, like or overlook the meaning of the experience just to like to be in the moment. We're just like, whatever, I'm in Portugal, like having a good
You don't
time.
take
But
the
like,
time to sink it in.
and then this is where an episode like this comes into like play. Is like we're actually talking about the meaning behind the trip. Like
Right, right.
we had tons of value from that trip, and this is us explaining the meaning to us from the trip. So I just wanted to drop that in there. Um, just kind of like add to like the conversation in sense in that sense. But
Yeah.
as I wrap it up, I do want to ask this one question: what was your favorite part of the trip for you?
Favorite part of the trip? There were so many good moments. It was really good. Like, I mean, you knew that we enjoyed like the nightlife, so we went out and had drinks and did karaoke with like locals there. Um, Not saying this was my favorite part of the trip, but it was pretty sick. We were at the bar and I was singing silly songs like, Shaggy, It Wasn't Me. I'm singing what else did I sing? Like some Queen. But I went up there and I saw this guy in the front row that was like hanging out there and he was friendly. I could tell he was not from the Azores. He was Canadian. He's from Toronto. And I was like, "Oh, do you want to sing Creed with me?" He's like, "Hell yeah!" So I went up and sang with him. That's a moment you could do anywhere, but I just wanted to give a shout out to that guy, Joseph from Toronto. If you ever see this, I miss you, buddy. Uh, but no, I mean, Lagoa de Fogo, Lake of Fire was really cool. I loved seeing that because of just how vast it is. The food's phenomenal. I think that the trip to Furnace to see the food and everything cooked in the ground and then actually eat it was sweet. Um, yeah, I mean, you could talk about the waterfall. I think that was probably your favorite, right?
Yeah, the waterfall hike that we did. I forget, it was like Sanguino. I forget the name of the like the town city, I guess, that we were in, but it was like a waterfall trail, and you go up this path that was like cobblestone. Terrible if it's rainy, which it was that day.
Yeah.
Super slippery, and
Salto de Prego was the name of it.
was it that?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
know it was. Maybe the city that we got dropped off in was the Sanguino, whatever,
Yeah,
whatever it
yeah, yeah.
was,
It
and
was
then
something
that
like
was
that.
like the trail
Yep.
to that place.
Yeah, that
But
was the waterfall or something.
the cobblestone's super wet, super scary to kind of walk on. I had hiking boots and it was still sketchy to go up. But you go up that, there's a bar at the top of that area. We didn't hit the bar at that point. It's still
It was like raining at that
yeah,
point.
it wasn't. I was not feeling a drink at that point either. But it's like this almost like a banded like village basically at the top of this area, and then you get into the woods and just like the trees and the moss and the ferns and like the fogginess of like the mountains and the rain. Like I felt fucking right at home. I was like, this is just like amazing, and just to have that and then get to the waterfall and like there was just chickens and stuff on the
Yeah,
trail and like even the colors of the leaves on the ground, it wasn't like fall-ish, but like it had like this weird like spin to it. And I don't know, I anything naturey, like I just like that's always my favorite parts of the hikes or
yeah,
the parts of the trips, like even the island trip, the hike that I did with Jamie, like that was my favorite part.
right.
Like that stuff I'm like is always so cool to me because like we don't like in New Hampshire and Maine, this waterfalls, but like the terrain was just different.
Yeah, right.
And that was like a really cool feature of it. And to be able to also swim the waterfall, which was fucking freezing.
That was so
But
cool.
like
Yeah,
it was just a cool experience. And like I'm glad that we did that. It was not too difficult, but it was definitely had its challenging moments in the beginning. But yeah, hands down, that was definitely like my favorite part of the trip. And close second would be the first night out, the bachelor party behind us and them slamming beers and Jordan chugged the beer faster than you did. And
yeah.
yeah.
I didn't know it was a race.
Yeah, I've never seen that man drink a beer that fast. It was
He
insane.
immediately went back to UMass Amherst. He was
He
like, "Oh,
just
I gotta drink this fast."
yeah, that would be a close like runner up moment of
I
the
gotta
trip.
quote Jordan on that. He literally, when I gave him shit for it, I'm like, I didn't know we were racing. What the hell? He's like, you don't stand up in front of a group of people to drink a beer and drink it slow. So I'm like, okay, buddy, fair enough.
That's a perfect way to start bringing this podcast home. Um
Fair enough, Jordan.
Jake, so typically how I end the podcast, I always give people kind of the last word, the wrap up. I'll let you kind of do that, whether it's advice on travel, whether it's advice on traveling with family, experiencing things with family, your own personal feelings on traveling. I'll let you kind of wrap us up, and then I'll plug our stuff and take us home.
Yeah, I think that if you can afford to do it, just do it because we don't know how much time we have on this earth. We don't know how much time our family has on this earth. You got to build as much memories with them as you can. There's sad things that I've heard from my work too, for people I work with, and I don't pray, but thoughts and prayers are for him and his family. Um, you just never know. So things can happen at any given time. You really want to just embrace what you have and live and learn. Go on these trips wherever it might be, other parts of the U.S. or other countries, and just take it all in. Like you said, you're in the experience, but make sure that you learn what it was, right? So yeah, just do it, guys. Do it.
Perfect. Don't miss the meaning of the experience.
There you go. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it was.
I don't listen to them.
No, you just reworded it.
I
It's
botched it.
same thing. But yeah, huge point is a lot of times we overlook the meaning of things and people don't take stuff too seriously. But I think there is meaning in stuff, and it's part of life. You're learning and you're going through all this different stuff. So yeah,
Yep.
glad that we could sit down and recap the Azores trip. I think that was perfect. But for you guys, if you guys like the podcast, please rate, review, subscribe, share with your friends, share with your family, share with your grandma. Check it out, thecarrollconnection.simplecast.com. Also, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the major listening platforms. If you'd like to watch your podcast, go on YouTube, search The Carroll Connection or at Jared M. Carroll, and they'll pop up. And if you want to be a guest or return as a guest, hit me up on Instagram at Jared M. Carroll or at The Carroll Connection, and we'll set that up. And plugging the 5 pillars to create a meaningful life, only available on Amazon. If you buy it and you like it, please submit the review on Amazon. It goes a long way in the algorithm. So, till next time, guys. Peace.
Listen to Sleep Token.